Welcome to A Moment of Xen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Xen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Xen Sams.
Welcome back, beautiful New York City, tri-state area, and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Xen Sams, celebrating 6.5 incredible years on air and marking episode 257. Today, I want to take you inside the full architecture of what we're building here, because every series, every sponsor, every guest is part of a larger cultural conversation. On Clean Collective series, brought to you by Crunchi, we welcome Nora LaTorre, CEO and co-founder of Eat Real, covering the hidden ingredients making our kids sick, from cafeterias to, yes, even cosmetics. We're going to focus on diet-related illness in American children, systemic food standards, cumulative exposure, and transforming school food systems through policy and accountability. In the Lifted by Science series, brought to you by CO2 Lift Pro, we're featuring Angelina Bondarenko, founder of Aesthetic Touch, registered nurse, cosmetic injector, and medical esthetician, covering why one treatment is no longer enough, how combination therapies and smart post-procedure recovery with CO2 Lift Pro are redefining modern aesthetic results. In the Lifestyle Edit, brought to you by Melia Hotels International, we welcome Susanna Mander, Global Director of Brand Expansion at Melia Hotels, and I'll be chatting with her about why modern travelers are suddenly demanding meaning, trust, and cultural immersion, and how global hospitality is evolving from selling stays to shaping identity-driven experiences. In the Elevating Experiences series, brought to you by MTK Group NY, we're joined by Alex Payne, Pam Iorg, and Jess Field, co-founders of Points Talk Squad. The headliner is Luxury Travel Isn't for the Wealthy, It's for the Strategic. We're discussing how 3 generations of women are rewriting the rules of family travel through points and miles, and how families are unlocking elevated experiences with luxury budgets. In the We Play It Forward series, brought to you by the We Play It Forward Foundation, we're chatting beyond the diagnoses, how 2 parents engineered momentum in the fight against childhood dementia, featuring Megan and Kyle Kempf, parents to Poppy and Oliver, both living with San Filippo syndrome type B. Stay tuned for the Points Talk Squad coming up next in Elevating Experiences series, brought to you by MTK Group New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Skin by Sari. Nationally recognized injector Sari Katz is redefining cosmetic treatments with an approach that's subtle, precise, and confidence-driven. Whether you're new to injectables or looking for an expert touch, Sari creates results that enhance your natural features. Never mask them. Discover what personalized aesthetics should feel like. To learn more, visit skinbysari.com or follow @skinbysari on Instagram.
Welcome back, beautiful New York tri-state area and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Xen Sams. Welcome back to the Elevating Experiences segment, brought to you by MTK New York, where we don't just talk about travel, we talk about access. Because here's the truth. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, airline fares have increased significantly over the past several years, and hotel rates remain well above pre-2020 averages. Meanwhile, a recent Deloitte travel report shows that more than half of Americans say travel is a top priority, yet cost remains the number one barrier. Translation? Families want the memories. They just don't think they can afford them. So today's headliner is Luxury Travel Isn't for the Wealthy, It's for the Strategic. We're talking about how 3 women, 3 generations are rewriting the rules of family travel using points and miles. Joining me right now are the co-founders of Points Talk Squad, Alex Payne, mom of 4 boys and full-time memory maker, Jess Field, former lawyer who left law to teach families how to travel smarter, and Pam Iorg, retired nurse, former extreme couponer, grandma of 21. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start with you, Pam. You went from extreme couponing to booking business class flights. And for years, saving money meant clipping and stacking discounts. What clicked for you when you realized points and miles could like literally outperform traditional frugality?
I just had always a super passion for traveling. I would coupon every single week, and whatever I saved would go in a little ledger, and that was my travel money. I was doing the slow burn. So I had heard about people who were using points and miles for travel, but it was way out there. And all of a sudden, Alex came to me one day, and she had a friend who had been doing this and talked to me about it. And my eyes opened up, and I got, inside, I was just all fluttery and excited because I go, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I can trade shampoo and toothpaste for free travel. I'm in 100%. I'm in. It was really I would say it was one of the best days of my life because it completely changed everything for me. I wasn't doing the slow burn. I was doing the fast burn. I started traveling all over. When I was couponing and saving some money, I was on those economy seats. I was staying in moderate hotels. I got into points and miles, and hey, I don't travel internationally unless it's in a business lay flat seat. I'm a very bougie traveler now. I like the good life. And this has just opened up the world to things I thought I could never be able to do.
Wow, you're blowing my mind. I'm definitely doing something wrong. But what I love about this is that it reframes wealth, right? It's not income, it's information. And studies do show billions of dollars in credit card rewards go unused every single year. And that's not because people don't qualify, it's because people don't understand the system. And well, you decided to learn it. So kudos to you.
Thanks.
So Alex, you're a mom of 4 boys. You got sports schedules, you got school breaks, you got chaos.
Yes.
So strategic travel sounds glamorous, but what does it look like in real life when you're juggling tournaments and limited PTO?
Yeah, it is getting out those schedules, getting out the sports schedule, getting out the school schedule, of matching those up and figure out where is some time where we don't have something going on. And you really have to take advantage of those opportunities because parents with multiple kids in school and sports, you know how difficult it is to find time where you don't have something going on. And that's the key thing, is looking ahead. What we see a lot is, even my husband was telling me the other day, someone at work was like, hey, I'm thinking of going to Costa Rica for spring break. Spring break is like for some people next month. I mean, there's times I'm planning trips 9 to 12 months in advance so that I get the exact trip that I want, because that's what's going to happen is you're going to think, hey, we're going to go to Costa Rica for spring break. But spoiler, you're maybe not, because by the time you go to use your points to book your hotel stay, it's already long gone. So booking ahead is crucial for busy families.
I'm glad that you made that distinction, because that's the differentiator between paying full freight, doing it last minute, and planning ahead and paying a fraction of the cost for that same exact trip done strategically. So Jess, you're a former lawyer. You understand fine print and risk mitigation. There's a fear narrative around credit cards, right? What are families misunderstanding about rewards, and how can they maybe use them responsibly without falling into debt traps?
I think a lot of people see our content and they see, oh, they redeemed 25,000 points for this flight, or they redeemed 100,000 points for this luxury resort stay. And they think, oh, that means I have to spend $25,000 on my credit card, or I have to spend $100,000 on my credit card. That's not possible for my family. And that is not the case at all. Everything we teach is about using credit cards for your everyday expenses and earning those big welcome offers on the credit cards. That's how we accumulate the vast majority of our points and miles that translate into nearly free travel. And so the key is shifting your spend, either not using a debit card or cash and instead using a credit card, or like Pam said, not just using one credit card. Like, there are so many moms who have their Costco credit card and that they charge everything to their Costco credit card, which is fine, but you're leaving a ton of points and miles and free travel on the table in doing that. So it's pretty much shifting the way you spend, putting it all on a credit card, but then also treating that credit card like a debit card, making sure that you can pay it off on time and in full, every month. But especially with families, these expenses rack up so quickly between the cost of groceries and gas and dining out and medical expenses and needing new tires and just everyday life. People don't realize, like, the silver lining of all those expenses is getting a free trip out of them.
Right. So do you recommend sticking with the usual suspects when it comes to credit cards, the ones that have that point system, reward system built in, doing the homework, doing the research, low interest rate? Do you have any preferences? Like, how does one identify and reverse engineer which credit card matches their lifestyle based on the type of points that they want to accumulate?
So we all have what we call our keeper cards, and those are just like the cards that we carry around in our wallet every single day. And those, like, I have a card that earns 4x at grocery stores. And so that's like my card that every time I go to the grocery store, I'm using that. It also earns 4x at restaurants. And so that's like my daily driver for those categories. But we also have cards that earn 2x on every single purchase, and so that's kind of our go-to for just everyday spend that doesn't fall into one of those categories. But the difference is we're also, while having those keeper cards, we're opening more credit cards each year in the process to keep replenishing our stash of points and miles to travel free. On our website, we have a list of all of the cards that we recommend, and we even have a little symbol at the top that's like, this is a point Tox card.
Perfect. That's
card.
What we needed.
Yeah.
All right. So we have an aggregate of this, so we could direct our listeners and viewers to that. That's amazing. And this is critical because it's interesting because when you look back to statistics, right, we're all about edutainment on the show, but the Federal Reserve consistently reports that revolving credit card debt is a stressor for many households. But the key distinction is this: rewards only work if you're already spending responsibly. This isn't about spending more. It's about spending smarter.
Yes.
So Pam, you're a grandma to, is this correct, 21 kids?
Yes, 21 grandchildren, and I have 5 children.
God bless. Wow. I'm in the presence of incredible legacy, because to have 21 grandchildren, you have your work cut out for you. I mean, you have all kinds of tricks up your sleeve. I know for a fact all good grandmas do. So how has points travel allowed you to create multi-generational memories that might not have been possible otherwise?
Oh, it's been key. I'm sure that, if I was just living on my retirement money, we'd be doing some, kids coming to my house, some little tiny vacations. But instead, I'm able to, like last year, I took all of my children, all my girls, on a trip and covered it with points and miles. So Alex and I went to Roatan. I took a daughter to St. Kitts, another daughter, we went to the Dominican Republic. I've done the same with grandchildren. We take 2 or 3 of our grandchildren every summer on a trip with us to Hawaii. And using points and miles has made that so much easier, so much less expensive. So we take like 2 boys or 2 girls, and we have 21. So we're about halfway through that process. And then somehow I started a thing, and this is the only thing. Alex has all boys. We got to figure out how to make this up with her. But each of my girls and their oldest granddaughter, we started a trip that we do at one time with them. So I've got one daughter who still has her daughter, my granddaughter. We're going to Greece in June. And so Points and Miles has fueled these. This is not something, I couldn't have planned these multi-generational trips at all on my retirement from being a nurse.
So Alex, let's talk luxury.
Yeah.
What's one redemption you've booked, flight or hotel, that would shock listeners to learn was mostly covered with points?
Yeah, this is a really interesting timing that you asked this question, because I am headed to the Maldives here very soon. This will be my 2nd time visiting the Maldives. And I think that's the thing that's really cool about this, is you think like, oh, there's these bucket lists, once in a lifetime trips. And with points and miles, nothing's once in a lifetime. You can repeat these once in a lifetime trips. So my husband and I went to the Maldives in 2022. We flew lay flat business class seats there. We stayed in an overwater villa, like total pinch me. How is this real? And I used points for the lay flat seats and the overwater villa. And we are leaving very soon to go repeat that trip. So I think that, like, even when I remember the first time I went, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm in this overwater villa that I didn't pay for. I need to go tell all of my friends how to do this, because it's really exciting when you realize what's possible. And I think that's something that so many people have on their bucket list, but they think, I'm never going to be able to make that happen. Or I'm going to have to save and do that when I'm retired and, save for years to make that kind of trip happen. But you can do it now, and you can do it again and again. So that was a huge one for me.
It's mind-blowing. And this is where the myth explodes, because when people hear business class or 5-star resort, they assume 6-figure income, but in reality, it's about understanding transfer partners and welcome bonuses and timing. It's really just strategy. It's not status. So I'm going to pivot to you, Jess. You left a legal career to teach this full time.
I did.
What did you see in the marketplace that convinced you that this wasn't just a hobby, but like truly a financial literacy gap families needed filled?
Yeah. So I opened my very first travel rewards credit card in 2015. And at that time, social media wasn't as big as it is now. And all the blogs and everyone teaching points and miles were men. And it was a lot of businessmen. It was a lot of single men who were like, let me show you how to fly business class with my glass of champagne in my hand. But I couldn't relate to that. I was a mom, and I was like, I need someone teaching me how to do this that I can relate to. And the thing is, studies have shown women make 80% or more of travel decisions. It's the moms making travel decisions. It's the wives. It's the daughters. And so women need access to this information the same, if not more, than men do. And so I think we all share that. That's why we started this. I was like, we need women and moms teaching other women and moms how to do this, because like women belong in business class, families belong in business class, and like access shouldn't just be reserved to these men that are having this information handed to them. We need to teach it also. And so there was a huge gap in, being able to relate to other women and moms teaching this. So we wanted to fill that gap.
And what you're saying is spot on, because financial literacy is essentially what you're doing. It isn't just about investing and retirement accounts. It's about optimizing the money that's already flowing through the household. Yeah. And I think travel is often the second or third largest discretionary expense for families. So if you can optimize that, you create margin. So Pam, for someone over 50 who thinks, I'm too late to learn this, what would you say?
Oh, you're right on time. There's a couple really good things. One thing is you got a lot more time. You don't have a lot of little children running around and, piecing your time. Another thing is that at 50, you're probably not traveling as much with the family. So the points you earn, you're going to need fewer points to go on your trip, which means you don't have to go in economy with a family. Now you can go in business class because you've got a lot more points to spend. I think that for me, it's like also it's given me something to do and to concentrate on and to broaden my mind, keep my mind going. And it's just, I'm way older than a 50-year-old. We're talking about a 50-year-old. I didn't start till 60, in my 60s. And so for the last 10 years, I've traveled all over the world. Last year, I traveled 17 times. The year before, it was about 12 times. And it's all about learning how to do it and making it work for you. I laugh because a lot of my friends just think I've inherited this great inheritance and that's how I travel. No, I used my mind. I started trying to learn how to do it, and I've seen the rewards. Anybody can do it. I'm almost 73. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, I guess, right? It's never too late to start
Never
playing
too
the
late.
points game strategically. Yeah. Alex, busy families sometimes dabble in points without a system, if you will. Like, I have a lot of friends who are like, yeah, we have points here. What are the biggest mistakes you see when people try to wing it?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes for sure is they're like, okay, we're going to get this credit card. They open a credit card, they add their spouse as an authorized user, and they're both just using that one credit card for their spend. And instead, one person can open the card, refer the other person to the card, and then then they would have two of the same card. So you get the welcome offer twice, plus a referral bonus, instead of just opening one card. The other thing, like my mom touched on earlier, is just having one card that you use for all your expenses, because you're just leaving a lot of opportunity on the table. It's interesting how many people will be like, oh, I'll tell them kind of what I do with traveling on points. And they're like, oh yeah, I do that too. I have this one card and I put all my expenses on it. And I'm like, that is so awesome. That is a great start. But you can earn a lot more points if you're opening more cards for the welcome offer. So I think authorized users and not opening more cards is where most people make a mistake.
And how many cards should one aim to have to effectively be a successful,
Yeah. I think it depends on
couponer?
your comfortability. I mean, we do this is our jobs and we travel a ton. So we're opening a lot. I think for someone just starting out in their first year, I think 4 to 5 cards is a really healthy place to start.
All in different categories.
Yeah. Like maybe getting some flexible points cards, maybe a co-branded airline card and a hotel co-branded card would be a great start for a family.
Yeah. So Jess, if a listener wants to take one elevated trip in the next 12 months, maybe even business class, what's that very first smart step they should take this week?
So if they're brand new to Points and Miles, on our website, pointstalksquad.com, we have a Start Here tab. And it basically is a roadmap for someone who has never done Points and Miles before. And it walks them through like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And so that is a really great place to start. It includes things like we have an entire beginner guide for Points and Miles. We also have a free webinar that we teach where we walk like from beginning to our booking process of like, these are our favorite cards. These are credit card myths that we dispel. Like a lot of people think that this will ruin their credit score. We talk about that in the webinar. We talk about ways to maximize your points and everything like that. So I think that is the number one place to start, is our Start Here roadmap.
That's everything. That's priceless. That's what I was looking for, because that's where I would want to start. And this is where empowerment happens, because the barrier isn't income, it's clarity. Once someone understands their spending habits and their travel goals and the reward ecosystem, they really move from consumer to strategist. And I love that. You guys are teach me something I don't know. And so you guys have done a great job. I love it. So enriching. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us on.
If you want to learn more and you want to hear more from Alex, Pam, and Jess, you could visit Points Talk Squad directly at pointstalksquad.com. You could follow them on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Points Talk Squad. And you could tune in to the Points Talk podcast for deeper dives, because here's the truth. Luxury isn't reserved for the wealthy. It's reserved for the informed. And that's what we do here in Elevating Experiences. We identify the problem in the marketplace and we elevate the solution. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by MTK Group New York. Experience travel without limits. MTK Travel Club, part of MTK Group New York, offers exclusive access to private jet travel, 5-star resorts, and unforgettable luxury experience designed around you. From seamless departures to personalized itineraries, we elevate every moment of your journey. MTK Travel Club makes extraordinary travel effortless. Visit mtkgroupny.com today to discover a new level of luxury.
Welcome back, beautiful New York tri-state area and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Today's Clean Collective conversation sits at the intersection of motherhood, public health, and accountability, and it's one every parent needs to hear. the hidden ingredients making our kids sick, from cafeterias to cosmetics. That's not a headline meant to alarm, it's actually a reality check. Diet-related illness is now one of the fastest-growing health crises facing American children. Nearly 1 in 5 kiddos in the U.S. is obese, and more than 30 million children rely on school meals every single day, meals that often prioritize cost and shelf life over nourishment. And when you zoom out, this isn't just about food, it's about cumulative exposure. What our kids eat, what goes on their bodies, and the standards we allow to exist in the first place are at the heart of this conversation, and it matters. My guest today is Nora LaTorre, CEO and co-founder of Eat Real. It's a nonprofit on a mission to end diet-related illness in America's children by transforming school food systems, raising awareness, and driving policy change. Nora believes, and I wholeheartedly agree, that this crisis isn't about parental failure. It's about systemic standards and the power we have to change them. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you so much for having me and having this important conversation.
Yeah, excited to dive right in. I'm a mom. I do my research. This is the Expert on the Microphone series, so I'm excited to look under the hood. So we're seeing health conditions in children that used to be considered adult-only problems, right? And the CDC now reports rising rates of childhood obesity, type 2 diabetes, and metabolic disease. And for many kids, school meals make up the majority of their weekday nutrition, which is alarming. So from where you sit, what is the most misunderstood truth about how school food is contributing to this growing childhood health crisis? And it's a real one.
Children's lifespans and health spans are at risk. Like, we're at risk in America of giving our kids shorter, less healthy, and less happy lives. And food is the biggest driver of preventable ultra-processed food diseases, and it's the biggest solution. And within that, we believe that school food and improving school food is the big bet to reverse these negative health trends and to help stop disease before it starts and get our kids healthy from the beginning and nourish their minds and bodies and their academic dreams and their larger life dreams through the power of school food. School food is a lifeline for families and for children. A lot of our schools around the country serve kids school breakfast, school lunch, and school supper. And so we actually just had the Sacramento Kings players, some of them come out and serve our kids school supper. So kids are depending on these meals for their nourishment. So it's really critical that we get them healthy, delicious, kid-friendly approved food that they'll eat and enjoy so that we can truly nourish our children. And we think that by improving the school food system, that is how we can best create health for the next generation in our country.
Yeah, and that's such an important distinction, Nora, because parents assume safeguards are in place when the reality is far more complicated.
Yeah, schools are the largest restaurant chain in America. They're bigger than Subway, Starbucks, and McDonald's combined.
So let's talk about that. What's actually being served? So what ingredients, Nora, or practices even in school cafeterias concern you the most? And why should parents really be paying closer attention?
Yeah, in general in schools, but in our total food system, 67% of kids' calories are ultra-processed calories. That means that the food has been transformed, changed, and not far away from real food, the original food that's been serving us for our entire humanity. And so we've really only recently started to move to this ultra-processed food environment, and it's a failed experiment. It's not working for our kids and it's not working for our bodies. It's creating disease. And so the harsh reality is that 67% of kids' calories are ultra-processed calories, and that means super packaged, hyper palatable. One of the biggest concerns is just how much sugar particularly is hidden in food. And in kids' food, there are over 250 names for sugar. So it's sneaky, it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere. And kids drink a bathtub of added sugar a year. Just drink. And this is like, kids used to eat more like 4 pounds of sugar per year, and now they're drinking over 65 pounds of sugar. And so one of the biggest sneaky things is just how much sugar is hidden throughout breakfast and lunch and in it's in everything. My family, we did a 7-day no added or free sugar challenge, and we do that around the country sometimes. And it's so life-changing when you start to look for hidden sugars and syrups and added sugars. Fruit is game on. Fruit is totally fine, but not juiced or added sugar in products, in the ingredients labels and whatnot. And so that's one of the biggest ahas and biggest kind of things that families can look for and start to take control over is really that. And parents see it. They see the behavioral issues. They see, their kids
and when you hear it laid out like that, it really reframes the issue. I mean, this isn't about occasional treats. It's about chronic exposure. And parents are often told to just make better choices, but kids spend most of their day outside the home. Even families who prioritize clean living can't fully control what's served at school. So how do you help parents move from guilt to empowerment when so much of this is systemic?
Yeah, parents' voices really, really matter, and they can make change in their local food systems. And so that can look like getting involved in the school. And I know parents are super busy and that's really, really hard, but we have on our website, eatreal.org/parents, we have a simple email. Like, you can just do it on your phone, go to eatreal.org/parents, take the email, and then find your nutrition director or your food service director and send them an email that says, first of all, thank you. Hey, I heard about Eat Real on the radio and I want to introduce you. Can I tell you about this really cool supportive resource? And then it's about making the introduction of our nonprofit to your local school. And we've had parents around the country do that. We had a mom, Lynn Choi, who did it, and she got her school in Eat Real's program, in our nonprofits program, to help upgrade the school food menu and certify the school district Eat Real certified so that we could help upgrade the food. And she did it within 12 hours.
Wow.
And so moms on a mission, make things happen.
That's committed. That's real investment. And I appreciate that so much because, when you look at the parents feeling guilty or shame doesn't drive change, but information and access absolutely do. Now, I want to talk about why standards matter. So we've seen across industries, food, water, personal care, that when clear third-party standards exist, trust improves and behaviors change. Transparency creates accountability in my eyes. So why are independent standards and certifications so critical when it comes to protecting our kids' long-term health?
Because they raise the bar and they're based on science, they're based on the best research, the best evidence to what actually it does move the needle in terms of children's health and nutrition and what truly safeguards our children. And they're, around the world, certain standards are higher. We hear from parents all the time. I go to Europe and I feel better. And why are standards in Canada and other places higher than ours? We should be protecting our kids here. And so third-party standards that go above and beyond the current standards are a way for consumers to demand better for their kids. And so our standards are really science-based. We just did a standards revision. We're regularly looking at our standards and improving them. We work with the best scientists. We're founded by two doctors, Dr. Robert Lustig and Dr. Jordan Schlein are my co-founders, and they are true visionaries. They've been working on this for decades. And so they handpick the best experts to give us the best science to create standards that parents and students can trust that will truly move the needle for this children's health crisis that we're facing.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to talk about even more empowerment and stepping outside of just the box of what we're eating, right? It's because what we're putting on and around our body also matters. And this segment is the Clean Collective series brought to you by Crunchi. And I'm going to emphasize this because this is where my worlds collide as a media host and personality and as a mom. So just like food, I'm incredibly intentional about what goes on our bodies, right? Our skin is the biggest organ. That's why Crunchi is the only beauty brand I use and the only one I allow my daughter to use, who's 10. Because it's EWG verified, they're transparent, and they're aligned with those higher standards. Back to that raising the bar that you just mentioned. So from your perspective, how do daily exposures, food, personal care, environment compound over time, all of this, how does all of this affect our children's health long term?
Yeah, it adds up. And for little bodies, exposure is particularly important, and doing whatever we can. We don't need moms and dads to stress out. It's like we don't, but what we really need is the story, which I love that you're taking that angle of empowerment of like, we can start to do simple swaps of what goes into our kids' bodies and what goes on our kids' bodies that can help limit the exposure. And then they go out in the world and we're not going to be able to control everything or out there, but we can really think about how do we give our kids the knowledge and teach them, because little kids, when they learn about how added sugar can shrink brain size and how added sugar, maybe that's why they have the tummy ache that they have, when they start to learn, they start to make decisions and they start to really influence. I have my kids bossing me around about real food and moving us towards real food now. And so I think it's like, teach the kids and they also teach the parents and they engage the family too. And so how do we teach our kids? How do they feel really good and limit exposures themselves, right? Even for example, I was just talking to my daughter about polyester clothing and why like some of the more natural fibers in her sheets, in her clothing, help her skin breathe and don't put any microplastics in her body. And so I think teaching them about that, or when it comes to cosmetics, I personally love Crunchi and love Kelly and I trust it and I put it on my body. So one day I'll be sharing that with my daughter of why clean beauty really matters and how I want her to feel and to feel her best and to glow, but to do it in a way that doesn't come with a side of toxic ingredients or negative exposure for her. So I think there's a way that we can keep it really positive and be teaching our kids, and we don't have to carry it all as parents. When we explain the why to them and how it's really about giving their bodies the support to grow in a healthy way without signs of cancer or obesogens, etc., that they can really develop in a way that helps them glow for a long time.
Yeah, and that connection is so eye-opening because parents often don't realize how these choices stack over years. The last question brings me to those actionable steps and actionable hope, because it does exist. So when we talk about policy and systems, parents can feel overwhelmed. This whole conversation can feel overwhelming, like change is out of reach, but real impact often starts with just one informed step. So if parents listening today, watching right now, could take one meaningful step this week, not perfection, just progress, where should they start?
Reach for real food when you can. And talk about the power of real food with your kids and with your family, of how it makes you feel. Like whether that's, I think enjoy some real food together. Let me just say that really simply. Like whether that's like cherishing a blueberry and being like, this is so delicious and this has tons of vitamins, and parents getting excited about it, or enjoying a real food enjoying a real food moment with your kids and savoring and finding the deliciousness of real food. It helps them learn to love the power of real food. And so I think if you can even just find a couple moments where you're savoring some delicious real food together, that will create joy and a shared memory and move the family towards more real food, which is will really empower our family.
There you go. Well, that feels doable, Nora, and that's exactly what parents needed to hear right now. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This conversation is exactly why the Clean Collective series exists, to really empower families with information and transparency and standards that they can actually trust. So I thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
To continue to follow Nora, you can find her in one of three ways. You can follow her directly on Instagram at Nourished with Nora. You can go to eatreal.org, and you can also check Eat Real out on the gram at Eat Real Certified. And today's Clean Collective series is brought to you by Crunchi and Society brands that align with the same values we're talking about today. And as a mom, I don't compromise on ingredients, which is why Crunchi is the only beauty brand I use. As always, thank you for spending this time with me. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Westbridge Academy in Essex County, where students are seen, heard, and understood. Neurodiverse K through 12 students, many facing ADHD, anxiety, depression, or aggression, discover strength through connection. With compassionate educators, therapeutic support, and the latest technology, students can master academics and go further, exploring music production, financial and automotive literacy, social media awareness, and wellness. Visit westbridgeacademy.org to learn more.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Today, we're diving into another edition of Lifted by Science, brought to you by CO2 Lift Pro. Now, if you've been paying attention to the aesthetic space lately, you've probably noticed something interesting. The era of one-and-done treatments is fading very fast. Patients today are far more educated, more results-driven, and more focused on longevity, which is why combination therapies and intelligent post-procedure recovery have become the gold standard in modern aesthetic medicine. And joining me right now is someone who lives at the intersection of science, artistry, and patient-centered care. My guest is Angelina Bondarenko, founder of Aesthetic Touch. She's a registered nurse, cosmetic injector, and medical esthetician who has performed thousands of advanced aesthetic treatments and is known for delivering natural, radiant, highly personalized results. Today, we're going to break down why strategic treatment stacking works, how post-procedure add-ons like CO2 Lift Pro can dramatically impact outcomes, and what patients should actually be thinking about after they leave that treatment room. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very excited to be here today.
Okay, so let's dive right in. So Angelina, we're seeing more data and more real-world clinical experience showing that skin responds best when treatments are layered intentionally, right, rather than performed in isolation, if you will. So instead of chasing aggressive single procedures, providers are now focusing on synergy, inflammation control, barrier repair, and that cellular signaling all working together. Why are combo therapies becoming the new norm in aesthetic medicine rather than that standalone treatment?
Faces and bodies, they don't change in the one dimension, so no single treatment or modality can fix everything. That's the reason why combinational treatment are becoming the most popular at this moment and as a new standard to aesthetic treatments. They are increasing the results, they work better together, and they simply make overall experience the best.
That makes so much sense. It's less about shocking the skin and more about working with its biology, right? Which ultimately leads to better healing and longer lasting results. And I love what you said. It's truly about combination therapies that, you know, your mom's dermatologist or your grandmother's dermatologist 20 years ago are, you know, not where we are today. And regenerative medicine has really advanced. So I love that you're at the forefront of that conversation. Now, when you talk about post-procedure add-ons, right? So let's talk about that CO2 lift positioning. So one of the biggest missed opportunities I see as a consumer and someone deeply embedded in this space, I call myself an insider, is what happens after the procedure, right? So the recovery window is when the skin is most receptive to oxygenation and hydration and repair signaling, but it's often underutilized. So what types of procedures benefit most from a strategic post-procedure add-on, and what differences do patients notice when treatments like CO2 Lift Pro are in fact incorporated into that recovery process?
Laser resurfacing, radio frequency microneedling, regular microneedling, chemical peel. So our skin is very compromised at that moment, and it's crucial how we take care of skin afterwards. So all the recovery process is about healing, is about make the skin soothing, calming, and make the whole experience positive with the faster recovery. What I noticed with the CO2 Lift Pro as my recent and one of my favorite add-on at this moment, it's literally within 30 to 45 minutes calm down the redness, inflamed and irritated skin, and also the the very important part, what I notice, because I'm not just looking at the clinical point, how skin reacts, I also is looking for the client perception of the treatment itself. And what I notice is that important that clients, they're becoming more calmer. I think it's just something going on with also nerve receptors. They are feeling pampered, and which is make the entire treatment more positive. Also, the clients can go with their skincare protocol with a pack of 3 sessions and make their entire, if we're talking about fractional laser resurfacing, within like less than 5 minutes, their recovery process is much easier and much faster. So that's the incredible part.
Yeah. And that recovery piece is everything, because when patients see less redness and faster bounce back and better texture, it completely changes how they perceive the entire treatment experience, like you said. So I think you're spot on for that. Now, we often talk about in-office results, but Angelina, how important is at-home care after an in-office treatment? And what are the biggest do's and don'ts you emphasize, especially in that critical post-procedure window?
Sure. Post-treatment protocol is the crucial part of the entire treatments, especially when we do some intense sessions as lasers or even injectables, chemical pills, and so on, because it can make or break the entire results. That's what makes is the most crucial part, and either you gain or lose your results. And my big don't do things, and just do not neglect post-treatment protocol.
Well, I love that you're empowering patients, because results don't end at the door. They're actually maintained at home. And I guess that's where your personalization plan really comes into play, because you have a whole profile on them, right?
Yes, correct. Personalization is everything in my practice. I start consultation by listening clients, what's their main concern and what's the goal they want to achieve. Then we do skin analysis, and then I suggest them to go with customized skincare protocol, followed by the injectables. It can be neurotoxin, can be fillers, it can be anything. It can be the latest FDA cleared technology. It can be regular skincare routine daily use for them. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And so that's the level of customization, I think, that builds trust, because patients really feel seen, and they feel heard, and they feel supported, not just treated and by. So Angelina, I mean, this has been such an insightful conversation. I want to thank you for breaking down the science and the strategy and the intention behind truly effective aesthetic care. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm honored.
To learn more about Angelina and her work, you could go to Aesthetic Touch. You could visit at skinwellness.com, and you could follow her on the gram at aesthetic_touch_NYC. And of course, you can learn more about CO2 Lift Pro and how it's being used by top providers nationwide by visiting CO2Lift.com. I'm Zen Sams. This is the Lifted by Science segment. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by CO2 Lift. As we age, our skin loses moisture and elasticity, causing wrinkled skin. You can reverse this aging process with CO2 Lift. CO2 Lift utilizes the powerful benefits of carbon dioxide to lift, tighten, and regenerate your skin. This simple, painless at-home carboxy therapy treatment is scientifically proven to reverse the aging process. You will see reduction in wrinkles, increase in luminosity, and improve pigmentation, sagging, skin tone, and radiance.
For more information or to order CO2 Lift, ask your skincare professional or go to CO2Lift.com.
Welcome back, beautiful New York tri-state area and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Tonight, we're debuting the Lifestyle Edit, brought to you by Melia Hotels International. We're chatting travel with intention, the global shift from transactional travel to transformational living. How modern travelers are demanding meaning, trust, and cultural immersion, and why global hospitality is evolving from selling stays to shaping identity-driven experiences. So let me set the stage for you. According to Edelman, 85% of consumers say that trust determines whether they buy from a brand, but global trust continues to decline. And that matters when we're talking about travel. When you're not just buying a product, you're buying time, safety, and memories. And research from McKinsey and Company shows that over 70% of luxury travelers now prioritize authenticity, experience-led travel, but fewer than half feel their hotel meaningfully connects with the local culture. And industry data from Skift confirms that experiential travel is one of the fastest growing global segments because travelers are no longer asking, where should I go? They're asking, who will I become when I get there? And that's a profound shift. And today's guest is helping shape that narrative. Joining me is Susanna Mander. She's Global Director of Brand Expansion at Melia Hotels International. Susanna began her career in Italy in sales and marketing before joining Melia nearly 2 decades ago. From Miami to the company's headquarters in Mallorca, she's led brand creation, repositioning, and global storytelling across multiple luxury portfolios. Today, she oversees global brand expansion, ensuring every new hotel and branded residence is rooted in strong identity, emotional resonance, and long-term brand value. And of course, she believes hospitality is not just infrastructure, it's storytelling. Susanna, welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you so much, Shanna. That was an introduction. My goodness. Thank you so much. I've done a few things. Yes. I've been traveling around the world. Here I am. A pleasure to say hi to everyone and listening.
Thank you so much for joining us. So, Susanna, we're living in what Deloitte describes as a hyper-saturated brand economy, and consumers are exposed to thousands of messages daily. So in that kind of environment, attention is fragile and loyalty is earned. How has this era of digital overload reshaped what travelers emotionally expect from a hospitality brand?
Well, Shanna, that's absolutely right. I think that today travelers are actually more emotionally, not less. Because we live in a world where we see hundreds of destinations every day on our phones, so the bar is always going higher and higher. People, they just don't want beauty only anymore. They want meaning, as you said. Digital saturation has created 2 big shifts in travel. First, people arrive with a very clear expectation because they already imagine the experience. But second, they also crave something real, something that surprises them beyond what they saw online. So that's another extra challenge. For hospitality brands, it's no longer enough to look good. You have to feel authentic. You have to deliver moments that feel human, personal, and emotionally memorable. In a certain way, Shen Digital has made travelers much more demanding, but also more open to deeper experiences.
Yeah, and what you just said is so true. That's an important distinction because visibility is easy. Like you said, they're scrolling on their phones, but emotional resonance is rare. And relevance is what turns on a one-time guest into a lifelong advocate, so to speak, right?
Absolutely.
Now, Booking.com recently reported that 76% of global travelers want to travel more sustainably, yet many admit they don't know how to make meaningful choices. There's desire, but there's also confusion, Susanna. So
yes.
How does Melia expand globally while protecting authenticity and ensuring its values are operational, not just aspirational?
Well, that's a very, very big challenge. And this is something we talk about constantly, Shen, because growth without clarity is very dangerous. For us, expansion is not just opening hotels. It's about choosing the right projects and the right partners. Because if the vision is not shared, the brand will eventually lose its identity. We focus a lot on alignment of values, of culture, and long-term thinking. Sometimes that means saying no, even if the opportunity could look attractive on paper. So we have to choose. But we also believe that a strong brand shall not be rigid. It's very clear in the essence, but flexible in how it expresses itself locally in the destination. So growth actually becomes a way to enrich the brand, not to dilute it. Each new destination brings new energy, new culture, new inspiration to guests. The key is protecting the core while allowing that diversity to live.
Yeah, and what you're saying makes a lot of sense because that's the difference between marketing sustainability and living it, right? Modern travelers are incredibly perceptive. They reward alignment, not slogans.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the biggest frustrations I hear is I stayed somewhere beautiful, but I never felt the destination. So that's a disconnect. Can you explain the destination inclusive concept and how it transforms a hotel stay into genuine cultural immersion?
If you go somewhere and never truly connect with the destination, you miss the most powerful part of the journey, obviously. Traditionally, if you will remember, all-inclusive resorts created a beautiful but closed world for guests. We wanted to open that world. So we designed curated experiences outside the resort. We bring guests outside the resort in the destination with local guides, artisans, chefs, in natural environments and community. It could be a cultural workshop, a masterclass in creating an organic candle in Mexico, a nature experience, or something very intimate and personal. Suddenly, the trip becomes more emotional and guests just don't relax, they discover. Interesting, this has been also very powerful for families because children are naturally curious. When they engage with local culture or nature, the trip becomes a shared memory, not just a vacation, as you said at the beginning, Xen.
Now, interestingly enough, we're also seeing a rise in what we call blended living, so where travel, work, and lifestyle intersect. McKinsey reports affluent travels, they're increasingly prioritizing experiences that reflect who they are, not just where they are. So how is global brand expansion adapting to this shift from short stays to, let's just say, more lifestyle ecosystems?
Well, that's a lot to say about how, again, we go back to authenticity and values and the brand core. You know, authenticity always sounds beautiful. In reality, it's a lot of daily work. And we start with listening. We rely on local teams, local partners, local talent. But when we do exactly with this shift about, you know, the short stay, which is the vacation oriented, more of a holiday or a getaway, and the living experience, which is a new panorama that we entered recently, which is called the branded residences, which actually focus on giving you the brand experience in your living, you know, day to day. So it's a question of lifestyle, of course. So you need to connect with the brand. But what we're doing, especially now in the few projects that we have for branded, which are in Seychelles, in Miami, we're building in Montenegro, in Ras Al Khaimah, in Dubai. So everything really connects with the brand lifestyle. So when the guest connects with that lifestyle, it's a natural transition to go into that desire of being able to live that lifestyle 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Getting into a residences or a living product like a real estate product that gives you that experience is just the apotheosis of connection with the brand, I believe.
Yeah, and that's the future. I mean, hospitality as an extension of personal identity, not just a temporary escape. You hit it right on.
Absolutely.
Now, if someone listening right now feels overwhelmed, scrolling through destinations, influenced by aesthetics, but craving depth, they're not just looking for a trip, they're looking for alignment. What does traveling with intention truly mean, Susanna? And how can someone identify a brand that offers transformation, not just accommodation?
Well, the travel with intention also means understanding that going somewhere needs to transform you. You want to come back different from a trip. You want to come back enriched. You want to come back definitely with memories, but you want to come back with something new that you have learned, some experiences that will make you feel much deeper on this vacation, on this holiday, you know, memory. So what we have done, and especially in some of the brands that are very much connected to the destination, to the culture. We're talking about also the Zell Hotel in Punta Cana with the Zell brand with Rafael Nadal, connecting with the destination through community activities, but also, for example, the Melia Collection, which has where we restore old buildings and try to give that experience, that storytelling behind. So as you said at the very beginning, travel and product is just not a description, but it's something that has to change the way you feel and has to change the way you come back. It's a shift in experience and it's an emotional shift.
That's beautifully said, Susanna. Travel really becomes transformational when it reflects your values, not just your vacation
Correct.
days. So there's another layer to this shift that's impossible to ignore. wellness as a core travel driver. Now, people don't just want a spa. They want experiences that help them feel better, sleep better, move better, and live cleaner while they're away. And that's exactly where lifestyle brands, and you alluded to this in the question earlier, that's where lifestyle brands like Zell, created through the partnership between Melia and tennis legend Rafael Nadal, are resonating. So Zell embodies a Mediterranean lifestyle rooted in active living, outdoor spaces, and well-being, right, in community, not just luxury amenities. It really reflects the blue zones. So here's my question. In a world where wellness travel is now a primary motivator, not a luxury add-on, how does Zell, especially through your partnership with Rafael Nadal, redefine what it means to travel with health and energy and community at the center of the experience? What are you guys doing differently?
Well, I think what I love especially about Zell is that it doesn't treat wellness as something separate or something intimidating. Wellness, I think, today is not about extreme routines or perfection. It's about balance, energy, and connection. The inspiration with Rafael Nadal was to create spaces, as you said perfectly, that reflect a Mediterranean lifestyle. Movement, outdoor living, healthy food, social connection. It feels natural, not prescriptive. At Zell, guests can be active but also relaxed. They can join a workout, a community event, or simply spend time outdoors. Social well-being is central, creating environments where people meet, share, and feel part of something. It's a very modern interpretation of wellness. It's less about isolation and more about community, Jen. I have to tell you a little anecdote. I participated to the Sport Fest that Zell organized in Mallorca. It was a weekend of activities, of different type of classes, of master classes on nutrition. Guess what? I chose the hardest one. It was amazing. I chose the HIIT class. And I couldn't walk for 3 days. In the office, they asked me, what's happening to you, Susanna? Well, I was there with my bracelet. I did these classes. It was full of people. They were doing all these activities. And Rafa Nadal showed up at night, stayed at the hotel, and had breakfast with everybody in the morning. It was amazing. But again, it's at Zell, what is really changing, the shift is the fact that sports, activity, and well-being, it's not isolated anymore, but it's about the community. And that's the big success of this brand. It's actually the core of the brand.
Well, Susanna, this conversation fit perfectly and captured why the lifestyle edit exists. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was so refreshing chatting with you, and I'm more excited about where Melia is headed and everything that's to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to Susanna and to the Melia team for leading this global shift with clarity and purpose. And to explore Melia Hotels International and experience hospitality designed for transformation, you can visit melia.com and follow them on the gram at melia.hotels.international. You can also check out the Zell brand at Zell Hotels. And you can also head to @Paraduces by Melia. And to check out more of Susanna, she has a great page. She is a world traveler and she walks what she talks. Check out Susanna Mander. You can follow us right here on A Moment of Xen on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio, @ZenSams on Instagram. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
The Kelly Williams Show is brought to you by Serendipity Yacht Cruises and Events. Tune in and turn on your happy. Kelly Williams is full of energy and incredible guests. Watch her anytime, free programming on Your Home TV network, and do follow her on social media for a chance to win monthly prizes. Check out The Kelly Williams Show on yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Xen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
Welcome back, beautiful New York, tri-state area and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. This is the We Play It Forward series brought to you by WePlayItForwardFoundation.org. And today's headliner is Beyond the Diagnoses, How Two Parents Engineered Momentum in the Fight Against Childhood Dementia. Sanfilippo syndrome, often called childhood dementia, is a rare progressive neurological disorder affecting approximately 1 in 70,000 births worldwide. There's no approved cure. Most families are told to wait. But Megan and Kyle, they didn't wait. Parents to Poppy and Oliver, both living with Sanfilippo syndrome type B, they've transformed urgency into action, mobilizing community, advancing expanded access pathways, and building strategic momentum in the rare disease space. Megan and Kyle, welcome to the show, superstars.
Thank you for having us, because that's been our greatest tool. It's being able to share this story. So this means a lot for our family.
Okay, so let's dive in. Now let's talk about the diagnosis and that emotional turning point. So Megan, let's start with you. So Sanfilippo is often misdiagnosed early because symptoms can resemble autism or ADHD. When did you first realize something wasn't adding up with Poppy and Oliver? And what was that emotional shift from devastation to determination, if you will?
So with Penelope, it was what I would say kind of a typical diagnosis odyssey for these kids. She was relatively typical until about age 3.5 is when we started to begin noticing things with her, but it was nothing super concrete. We were just kind of feeling like something was off. We started noticing, we say regressions, but I hesitate to even call it that because it was more cyclical feeling. She would master skills or gain skills, and then we would start to lose them again. And she could regain them. We kind of would go through the cycle, that's really a hard thing to pin down. It didn't point us to any kind of specific diagnosis. And so we just started pursuing other answers. We did therapies, looked at evaluations. She was eventually, at the age of about 6, diagnosed with mild intellectual disability and ADHD. And then the following year, she did receive an autism diagnosis. So we did finally get those diagnoses, but it wasn't until we did a full genome sequencing that we found out it was Sanfilippo syndrome. And that was just a few months before she turned 9. So it took a long time to get to that answer. And it definitely was not clear to us until we did that testing. Obviously, it was devastating. But we had been looking for so long for answers that there was a sense of relief to finally know what we were dealing with. Since it was genetic, we obviously immediately tested our son. He still shows no outward signs of having the disease, but we know now that he has it.
Oh.
And I think we were just able to really hit the ground running because we had been looking for answers for so long. So it is devastating, but we know that time is not on our side. We did not have time to wait. We needed to immediately turn that into action.
And that you did. And for those listening, for context, Sanfilippo, medically MPS 3, it's an autosomal recessive lysosomal storage disorder. So that basically means that both parents unknowingly carry one mutated gene. And when a child inherits 2 copies, the body can't properly break down heparan sulfate, which is a complex sugar molecule, and it accumulates particularly in the brain, leading to progressive neurodegeneration. So the diagnosis often does take years. We've been covering this on our show with the experts and tons of families for the last 3 years. And in neurodegenerative disease, time is critical. I mean, without a doubt. So, it's a hard conversation. So what strikes me is how this disease hides in plain sight, right? Children are often born appearing typical, and then regression begins, like you said, between ages 2 and 6. That delay in clarity is not just emotional. I mean, it's biological, and every month matters. So, Kyle, I'm going to pivot to you. Type B specifically involves a mutation in the NAGLU gene. Can you walk over our listeners through what that actually means biologically and neurologically for your children?
Yeah, sure. I'm no scientist, but we're becoming experts in what we
you have
can.
to be one at this point.
Yeah. So it's like you said, it's a deficiency in one of 4 enzymes that break down heparan sulfate in the body, which is a natural waste product. It's a long chain GAG, or there's a big long term for it, but it's basically a GAG, a sugar molecule that helps with connective tissue and other things inside of cells. When that builds up over time, it's kind of like you can't empty the trash in your kitchen, right? So it just builds up over time, and then it just starts kind of going everywhere, and that causes cell death. And so depending on where that's accumulating based on your own body's genetic processes, it can cause varying array of symptoms. So there's a lot of very pronounced look with a lot of the Sanfilippo children. There's a lot of different forms of regression. Some have seizures, some don't. Some have seizures later, while others don't for a long time. Some are able to progress all the way through walking and talking and then regress from there. So I think part of the usual observations of just the appearance that you can see on lysosomal storage disorders wasn't there with Poppy. So that really kind of fed into that diagnostic journey that we were on. Is like every doctor was looking for these coarse facial features and she didn't have it. But we now know a lot of families in the type B world, and you've talked to a lot of them, that have children that look very, very coarse in their facial features. So that was something that kind of delayed us. And then the seizure activity we haven't seen that we know of in our children. But we do know families that have children younger or older that both have varying kinds of seizures. So once that damage starts occurring, you lose these cells, and you lose, especially in the brain, it begins to atrophy. So that's the main concern, is getting drug and treatment and fixes in the brain, basically, is the biggest scientific hurdle.
So, Megan, let's talk about the daily reality of caregiving. What does daily life look like right now in your home? What do people not see when they follow your story online?
It's hard. We say it's a lot of caregiving and constant vigilance. And we're in kind of a unique situation with having both children with the disease, but one presenting very significantly and the other not. So we have a 9-year-old who is big and strong and loud like a 9-year-old, but operates more like a 1 or 2-year-old. And then we have an actual 2-year-old who is discovering lots of independence and opinion. And we love both of these kids. They're absolute joy. We have a joyful home. Every day is fun for us. We try to make sure every day is still fun for these kids and that we're trying to learn. And we have lots of therapy appointments. We see lots. We've got a big team of people that help these kids, try to keep moving forward. But Poppy is, she requires constant supervision. She is at a point where we almost consider her like a danger to herself or others. She has no awareness of danger, and her impulse control is virtually gone. So we're trying to keep her as active and learning as much as possible, but also kind of keep her in an invisible bubble so that everyone around can still operate. Yes, her speech has suffered. She's still speaking. We feel very fortunate. She's still walking and talking, but her speech is very hard to distinguish, especially for a stranger. We say she kind of speaks in code. We can figure out what she's talking about. Oliver is doing really well. People talk about special siblings who understand they have a sibling with special needs and learn how to kind of operate around that. And he's really learning to do that. He's kind of taking the lead relationally, even as a 2-year-old. He will tell her goodnight or come give her a hug or a kiss. And I think the hardest part for us is knowing that he doesn't know he's looking into his own future. And Poppy, the version of Poppy we know now is not the version she's always been. She has not always been a special needs kid. And so having that juxtaposition of one kid who's really in the midst of it and one kid who doesn't know what's coming, it's a hard reality to live in day to day. And I think that's part of what keeps us working hard to change it.
That's a heavy load to carry. You have to always, and you have each other. So that's foundational. I mean, the two of you are navigating this together. And engineering momentum and expanded access is really at the heart of this conversation. So Kyle, in the last 8 months, your community helped fund and push forward an expanded access program, sometimes called compassionate use, allowing access to investigational treatment outside of traditional trials. What did it actually take to make that happen?
Well, yeah.
Not a lot of sleep.
There's not a lot of sleep, which for our background, we had gotten used to that. So it was kind of like maybe we've been, being equipped for that moment. But
what's your background?
We were I was in the church world doing production, so technology and audio, video. She was doing social media and marketing. So working in the church world, we had a lot of overnights or like last minute requests that were due the next morning. So we worked a lot of time when everybody else was sleeping to get things done so that it was ready the next day. But I just call it the squeaky wheel. So I started doing a bunch of research, sending emails to all these doctors where I saw that the pathway had been going, but then stopped. And so I just started reaching out to a bunch of different folks, a bunch of different industry partners, so biotechs, companies that had treatments. And it was a push. By the time we got in touch with an industry partner that was willing to entertain this idea on a well-established treatment, it was tough, and the conversations took a long time, and they don't know me and I don't know them. So we're kind of doing this dance of like, okay, we're talking about raising or funding millions of dollars. Is that just all talk, or is this something that's going to happen? And once they gave us the go-ahead, we kind of had to push a little bit, not only on the industry side, but on the foundational and family side, to just kind of get the word out, because we had only a limited window, 4 or 5 weeks. So once we kind of released the announcement that, hey, we had found something, there's an opportunity here, families started reaching out. And then we just kind of took the families that were reaching out and started creating a family-only group. Not to say that industry partners or foundations aren't important, but we felt like family to family, we understood the journey, and we needed to be able to talk to each other clearly about what's going on, knowing what we work with as parents every day. So we built a story together. We started meeting regularly. For a lot of these parents, it was the first time they'd ever sat in a Zoom call with video on, being able to talk back and forth with another family. And we just started building momentum. We thought this was going to be a short sprint for a portion of the money, and then a longer marathon for the last portion of the money. And we gathered so much momentum, and so many people had such big communities that we raised it all in that 5 weeks. In addition to assistance from a foundation as well that saw that momentum and was willing to contribute alongside us. So for every dollar raised, we say that there was hundreds of hours and moments spent in prayer. We have a lot of really strong faith-based community around us, and a lot of the families have that as well. So we think it's kind of a bringing together of the two things. There's systems and there's just belief and prayer. So that was a fun time for sure. It was 5 weeks of.
And how much did you raise?
So we as the families raised $4.3 million in just over 5 weeks. And then the foundation, Cure San Filippo Foundation, who you've met with on the show before,
Glenn and Kara, superstars.
Yep, they contributed $1.2 million to honor that effort and to push the expanded access program straight to the biotech that has it. So
I love this conversation. It's warming my heart. I mean, there's always a silver lining, and God is good.
Mm-hmm.
Expanded access really requires regulatory navigation and physician alignment and manufacturer cooperation and funding and legal compliance. I mean, this is infrastructure building, not just awareness. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah.
And in the US, there's like 95% of rare diseases still have no FDA approved treatment. So families often feel just stuck between those clinical trial timelines and regulatory processes like you're describing. It's really frustrating. And so you didn't just raise awareness, guys. You built a system, and that really shifts the narrative from rare and powerless to organized and strategic. Think of it like that. Yeah. So Meg, you've been incredibly public and vulnerable, which I think has been the reason why this has gone viral, in sharing your family's story. How intentional was that? And how critical has narrative, if you will, been in unlocking the support that you have?
We received this diagnosis and were told that there was nothing we could do. And so then after some investigation, we discovered that we felt like there were things that we were going to be able to do, and that actually funding was probably our biggest hurdle. And as soon as we knew that, we pivoted to knowing that the best way we could actually protect our children was to put their story out there. And I think being vulnerable, I mean, it's still very hard. It is very uncomfortable for us to put our story out there. And being vulnerable, I think, is critical, which makes it even harder. But I think that's what makes it matter to people, is that they need to understand that we're just real people too, and this is a real struggle, and that we're going to be stronger together as a community. And, we're trying desperately to find answers for our children, but we know that there are more children out there too. And we feel responsible to tell this story, to try to get answers for our children and for other children like them. We want to bring other families hope. We don't want any other families to be told this is your diagnosis and just enjoy the time you have left, because that's just devastating as a parent. So it's been very intentional. And I think it's been hard, but I think that's probably why it's been powerful.
Yeah. And you're writing your own narrative. You're not part of someone else's, right? Because if you are part of somebody else's narrative, then you don't get to be in the position of power. but Kyle and both of you turned this into really a whole ecosystem of weaving together the perfect people within the right families to blend the right powers, support, funding to get this over the hill. Kyle, let's talk about what needs to change systemically. So from a systems perspective, what needs to change in the rare disease ecosystem to move faster? I mean, whether that's regulatory flexibility or funding models or collaboration structures.
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's one of the questions we never thought we'd have to think through or strategize around. And we're not much into the political policies or any of that. So I'll stay out of that lane for now, really. But based on what we've seen on the community side, on the family side, I think the biggest roadblock to families historically has been just an overall lack of transparency from both biotechs and industry and researchers both. They see money as an obstacle, and they see the diagnosis, and they know how hard it is. And I think, just like we were saying, one of our biggest passions is just not being afraid to ask the question. Once we found out money was the issue and we've started talking to these researchers about money, they've been a lot more open, and we have a lot more candid conversations with them on what we can and can't do. Hey, if you get this amount of money, how much faster can you get to this instead of waiting on government grants every year? So it's a fairly predictable problem to overcome in the U.S. We've met with a lot of global researchers that it's not as easy to raise money in Europe and other places like that. And so, when 5 years ago, when a biotech was looking at a $10 to $20 million initiative to get a treatment on board, they're either going to sell it off to the next person because they don't have that time or money, or they're not going to really do any action back to the community. They're just going to wait on couple $1 million grants over time. So what we're thinking needs to change is just transparency. We've proven, even with such a small, we're talking maybe 30 to 35 kids under the age of 18 in the U.S. with type B. We're capable and we're willing and we want to raise money if we can just be given the opportunity to do it. So I would say the communication from outside in really needs to change, because it's not a science problem. And that's what we thought was really hopeful, was that, hey, the researchers are there. They've been there for decades. The science is there. It's been there for decades. And they just need money
They just need money.
Yeah. And that's what we think from a systemic improvement, is just communication and asking the question, hey, I could move this faster if I can get $5 million, whether that's to a foundation or a group of families, and then letting them respond.
You could feel it. You could feel the cure. I'm covering this for the last couple of years, and I just know the community, and I've been following everything, just really being a big advocate. But yeah, I'm extremely hopeful. Well, we're at the end of our date, my friends. What an extraordinary conversation. Got emotional at one point, but I'm so thankful you came on and were transparent and vulnerable and allowed other families to perhaps avoid or help or, curb their dark moments right now. So thank you.
Thank you.
We're just glad to be here.
Yeah.
That was Kyle and Megan Kemp, how they engineered the momentum in the fight against childhood dementia. To support them, you could go directly to curepoppyandoliver.com. You can also check them out on the gram at Poppy and Oliver Kempf. That's KEMPF, the last name. And to support our partners of this series and the continued advancement of awareness and research for San Filippo families, you can go directly to WePlayItForwardFoundation.org, benefiting the Cure San Filippo Foundation. This is what it looks like when urgency becomes infrastructure, and that's how we play it forward. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut.
Discover the refreshing taste of 100% pure coconut water that actually tastes great. Naturally sweet with no artificial flavors or added sugar. It's packed with electrolytes to keep you hydrated throughout your day. And with 10% of profits going to charity, every sip makes a difference. Pure taste, pure goodness. Experience nature's Gatorade. Visit Once Upon a Coconut or naturesgatorade.com.
Well, that's a wrap. Beautiful tri-state area, New York City and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Remember to join me right here on A Moment of Zen every Saturday, and head to amomentofzen.com for live listening links and episode downloads in your city. And also remember that we're live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern, YouTube Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern, and all episodes of A Moment of Zen are available on your home TV streaming platform directly on our channel at mox.yourhometv.com. It's family-friendly, free programming, no app downloaded required. Thank you for listening to us. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show possible. And remember that happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it. We'll be back next week.